In honour of this weather, I thought I would share a story that is set in Australia where this kind of weather is completely normal, like no one thinks it's that big of a deal there. It's been wonderful. This story is this episode is part of a longer kind of memoir I'm writing about a road trip that I once took. So we have a saying in Australia, I shit you not, okay, which means I shit you not, this actually happened, all right? So, they continued through the weatherboard village, verandas hunched over the tarped mountains of outdoor furniture, packed away for the next school holidays. Before long, the road tipped down a hill and spread into a cul-de-sac overlooking a sandy path which led down to the wide beach. There was room to turn a boat trailer around, but theirs was the only vehicle enjoying the view this afternoon. On the wide, flat lawn to the left of the car park, there was a grazing mob of grey kangaroos. As Amy cut the ignition and decided to leave the key dangling, Beck lifted the papered bundle from her lap. Her bare thighs were bright and raw from the residual heat of the deep fryer. With her elbow, she popped the latch on her door and unfolded her limbs into the late afternoon breeze. Though there was a park bench with a perfect vista only a few metres away, they didn't want to bother the animals that scratched and sniffed around it. There must be 100 of them, Amy breathed, giving up count as more animals lumbered through the longer grass which edged along the cropped lawn. Shrugging, Beck placed the package on the hood of the car and peeled back the inch of tape holding their dinner between the paper folds. She smoothed the crumpled wrapping out around the golden carb mountain, a beige picnic beneath a blue sky. Beck planted herself beside it with a little hop. Her limbs dangled golden against the grey sheen of their noble steed. She gestured like a game show vixen, one eyebrow raised and dragging that corner of her mouth with it. Dinner is served. Amy didn't hesitate, scooting her backside onto the car's hood, still warm from their day's driving. Beck selected a bit of fish from the pile of fried assortments. As she broke it in two, the steam whispered into the air between them. She held half out to Amy, its tender white flesh sitting glossed within the broken batter pocket. Nibbling warily at the scalding flakes, they watched the roos enjoying their own evening meal. Their funny little arms combed the dry grass, huge watchful eyes staring out into space. Many of the mothers had joeys with them, miniature shadows on the grass, or pointed little faces peeking out from hidden belly folds. Beck pointed at one bundle of awkward limbs jutting out at all angles, a sack of furred sticks shoved unceremoniously into his patient mother's pouch. "You're getting a bit too big to be in there, mate," she called, taking another salty chip from the oily paper. "It's high time you left home. Quit cramping your mum's style." A large male looked up, hinging on huge thighs to survey his harem, and the hollering of these two imposters. His camel-like jaw continued to churn the crisp vegetation to pulp. The girl sat still on the hood of the car, meeting his glare with distinct unease. "Check that guy out." Amy jutted her chin in his direction. To her consternation, the brute returned the gesture. "Yeah, he's in charge, no doubt. I bet most of the bubs are his." Across the lawn, a dozen pouches wriggled with suckling joeys in a range of sizes. At the center of all of them, the boomer continued to chew in their direction. They held his gaze until one ear twitched and he swung his snout out towards the crashing surf. Entranced, the girls looked with him, unable to see what he'd spotted. As they scanned the grey horde for a clue, a low growl rumbled from the buck's thick chest. "Holy shit," Amy whispered. "I'd never heard them make a sound before." Their gaze tumbled with a vicious snarl across the lawn, coming to rest upon a juvenile male. He hopped cautiously towards their higher ground, passing through the mob with his shoulders low, unable to hide the fact of his inferior size. "No way!" Beck's breathing was laced with thrilled anticipation, beckoning to Amy as she climbed onto the roof of the car. They were not 15 meters from the huge buck, who stood motionless as the challenger ambled deliberately towards him. Perched on her turret, Amy wrapped her arms around her knees and stared in disbelief at the unfolding drama. Just as the audacious youth got within 3 meters of his impending doom, he stopped. Looking back over his shoulder to the safety of the mob's fringe, he sniffed the air, then slowly turned to face the chief. Inch by inch, the buck unfolded to his full height, tail pressed into the dry grass and neck stretching to the cloudless sky. His booming bark curled into a vicious snarl as his dinky arms scratched the expanse of his heaving belly. Like a deformed silverback, he beat his chest, rocking back on his serpentine tail. The challenger stayed rooted to his spot but bowed his head and started combing the grass. I reckon he's regretting the challenge. Amy could see the little rat face, its eyes widely searching for a way out, stuck with the buck in peripheral vision. Too right he is, look at the size of old mate, he's going to teach him a lesson. Beck squatted beside Amy, bobbing up and down on her haunches, electrified with anticipation. Who'd have thought, dinner and a show? The bossaroo dropped down himself and started tearing at the lawn, tufts of grass and soil flying in the fury. Through his baying and snarling, the harem snacked on, uninterested. Amy and Beck looked sideways at each other, as if to confirm the sight in each other's blissful disbelief. When they looked back at the boomer, his gaze met theirs. Staring straight at them, he rose again to full height, exposing his belly and a new development. His distended penis, pink and glistening in the afternoon sunshine. Gross! Crowed Beck, and her tittering skipped across the scene. The challenger seemed to be edging away ever so slightly. He had turned his body from the boss-roo, but his neck curved to where it met the grass, watching his back. From the roof of the car, the girls were much bolder. "You're just a big bully, aren't you?" Amy called. "You want all these doughs for yourself." Scowling straight at them, the buck began rolling his head on his neck, distorting his snarl. The beating of his chest staccato the barbarous sound, and his elongated phallus flicked and let loose a vile stream, aimed straight at them. "Foul, just foul," Beck tutted. Amy felt her guts churning. "He hasn't taken his eyes off us." The brute's arcing spray became a flaccid sprinkle, but he didn't stop waving his absurd arms in hideous revelry. The savage grunting continued as the grotesque pendulum swung between his massive thighs. "And here we see," Beck offered her best Attenborough impression, "the male in his typical display of macho bullshit." Amy chortled but didn't turn to her. The roo was still glaring at them. "I use the generic term male because though this display is presented by a kangaroo in this instant, on any given day, any sort of male might behave in such a..." Amy gasped and fell silent. The boomer's weight had shifted, and with a huff, his legs swung an easy meter towards them. She squeaked. "Is he coming over?" Beck muttered something back, but it got lost beneath another awful snarl of the kangaroo. He lurched forward once more, a swift lunge that suddenly put him far too close for comfort. Rearing up again, they could see the black claws at the end of his ridiculous limbs. With mounting horror, Amy was reminded of something prehistoric and reptilian. With a shriek, Beck scrambled backwards off the roof, dragging at Amy's elbow as she went. She wrenched the door open and clambered in, their ragged breathing filling the close space the instant Amy slammed the driver's door behind her. The boomer stood meters from the passenger window, much larger now that they weren't perched on higher ground. "Start the car." Beck's voice was steely. Amy twisted the key and the car revved to life. They looked back at the kangaroo, rooted to the spot, still staring right at them but making no sound. Twisting to check behind her, Amy's hand shook as it grabbed the gear stick. Reversing only as much as absolutely necessary, she swung the wheel right and skidded away from the water, away from the grazing mob. The greasy butcher's paper slid from the car's bonnet and its fried contents scattered across the empty bitumen. In the rearview mirror, they saw the boomer watching them go, up the hill and back through the clutch of holiday homes. Empty windows, the only other witness to their flight. They drove silently for 20 minutes or so, the sun stretching the shadows of the trees across the highway. At last, they followed signs to a little beach and continued down the road until it narrowed and came to a dead end. There was no lawn. The concrete of the car park was edged with dry shrubbery and a sandy gap indicated the way to the sea. Beck twisted to rummage in the clutter of the back seat, fishing out a couple of squashed bread rolls from the day before. Amy switched off the engine and popped the boot. She found their last bottle of wine and sloshed it about for Beck to hear. "Bread and wine, it's bloody biblical." Her friend's smile was wry and tired. They plonked down on the empty sand and watched the waves roll in, the sunset lapping at their backs. Above them, purple and pink smeared the blue sky without a single cloud's punctuation. They tore the bread into pieces, nibbling like mice or marsupials. The wine slipped straight from the bottle into mouths still parched by the salt of abandoned fish and chips. After a particularly big gulp, Beck shook her head and handed it over. I cannot believe we got sexually harassed by a kangaroo. Amy's laugh hacked at the back of her throat and she spluttered fat Merlot stains all over the white sand. I'm deadly serious, Ames! He was a monster! I wonder what he would have done to us. He was just protecting his family. Her tongue was furred with cheap tannins. Yes, some family. He was going to kick that other guy in the head. They're just dumb animals, like cows, but weirder looking. That dumb animal is on our coat of arms. Beck's outrage was whipped from her throat by the breeze and carried on out to the sea. I wonder how an alpha emu asserts his dominance. Amy was trying to be funny, but Beck just shook her head and took another swig. Wiping her lips with the back of her hand, she sighed. Boys will be boys. The waves came in neat rows, white lace upon the churning blue. They both looked out to where the horizon blurred the line between the ocean and the steadily inking sky.
Wow!
Kangaroos are disgusting animals. They're not.
Wow.
Okay. This is for my Australian friends that I met last year. I love them, and when I came back home, just couldn't help but write a good song. I know the song is good, but it's good for me because it helped me through missing Australia.
Excellent.
Walking down the street, feeling close to me. Driving down this way, 1,000 miles away. Looking for an angel to show me where it's right. Looking for an angel to show me what's right. And though I still feel confused, I'm on this people passing me by. The thought of you gives me a and takes me through the day and night. Feeling Australia, feeling Australia. Still wake up to the thought of